Hello and welcome back to Stories by Kev. Today we've got the conclusion of Saved by the Bones. Frankie's somewhere in the middle of the desert and, well, let's just see how it turns out, hey? Here we go. Just right, as usual. The lights came from a 1964 Chevy lowrider. Two brothers inside, Carlo and Philip Alderez. They'd been waiting months for Frankie's captors to make a mistake. One, a rival named Ramon, had killed their main man in central Vegas. Carlo and Felipe accepted the fact that doing business involved losing a man or two once in a while. They considered that as interest on a mortgage, but when someone had the balls to take out their lieutenant, well, that called for vengeance. Ramon proved difficult to extract blood from. As a last resort, the brothers turned to their patron saint, Santa Muerte. She was the giver of favors and taker of tribute, a virgin in all ways human except for the sacrament of death. In that she feasted and would accept payment in souls over cash or possessions, given the choice. Carlo and Felipe had paid her many times, always knowing she would one day accept a final payment with their lives. The dice hanging from their mirror symbolized that. Made of bone, they had spots carved in the shape of human skulls. They reminded followers of the skinny lady that life was temporary and she held the dice of fate. At the moment, fate swung through ghostly light reflected from the desert highway. The brothers lost sight of the van taillights at the same time as Frankie noticed their headlights. They knew Ramon and his partner, and they knew where they were heading. A little pullout just past the bend took the van from sight. Ramon liked to tie up loose ends there. They would slow down, get quiet, and park close to that spot. Then they'd walk over and take care of business. Their virgin patron willing, of course. Inside the van, Frankie held on for another turn, this one much slower than the last. The road became rough as her prison began to navigate forward. Frankie wished it would stop so she could make a run for it. She looked for a handle on the door, ready to jump out. When she realized they'd removed it, a renewed sense of panic came over her. As if her body grew a shield of adrenaline, she grappled with the hinges, trying to pull them out. The van slowed again, sharper this time. She flew forward and slammed into a wall that separated her from whoever sat in the driver's seat. Someone cursed from the other side. She couldn't make it out, wasn't even sure it was in English. They moved slowly now. It reminded her of the times her father would taxi around camp spots looking for that perfect spot. She wished she was still a kid, safe, unaware of the dangers lurking just outside of her personal world. 1 second, gotta turn that heater off. That's better. She held back tears as the van came to a stop. A few seconds later, the back door opened. A man stood there, her purse slung over his shoulder. Lit up by the red tail lights, he spoke in Spanish. "All right, bitch, time to talk. Who sent you to steal our money?" He pulled the purse from his shoulder, held it tightly by the top, and shook it at her. "I can't understand what you're saying." Frankie tried to be clear through her sobs, barely controlled. In English now. "I said, bitch, who sent you to steal our money?" "I didn't steal your money. I won that money at the casino playing blackjack." A small chance of survival presented itself in her mind. This was all just a misunderstanding, and the man would let her go when he realized his mistake. "What, you think I'm stupid, bitch? Who sent you? Do you know how hard it is to buy a dealer in Vegas? Our man was at that table. He was supposed to walk away with this." He shook the purse again. Confusion overtook Frankie. At least that scored higher than being paralyzed with fear. This was turning into a real conversation. The man might end up laughing about all of this when she explained herself so she could be understood. No, I'm sorry. You must have me confused with someone else. I know nothing about buying dealers. I never even knew you could, so I can't be the person you're thinking of." "Fucking bullshit," he cursed in Spanish again. Frankie looked at him. Blank. The man threw Frankie's purse over his shoulder again and reached into the van. Frankie tried to back away, but she had nowhere to go. He started to climb up inside when another man ran up to join him. "Ramon, I hear someone coming. Come on, we can deal with this later." It sounded like another car joined them. But why did the second man seem so excited? And why did the first man reach for something from his belt? Maybe they didn't want visitors. Maybe the police had come to her rescue. Maybe, who knows? None of it mattered. When the first man pulled his shirt back to grab a gun, he revealed a money belt made out of snakeskin. It had golden pockets all around. Before she refocused on the gun, the van door slammed in her face, and both men ran down a short road, hooked left, and disappeared. Frankie heard yelling, and it didn't sound friendly. And then gunshots. She prayed it was the police taking her captors down. She didn't want to think about the alternative. Trapped again, she watched as someone approached. He had her purse. But he didn't look like that first man. This one was shorter and seemed a little bit thicker. He pulled the door open again, stared, and asked, "Lady, is this your purse?" What a strange thing to ask. Frankie replied, "Yes, it is." She wasn't sure what to say next. Did you want to keep it? Because you can. I don't know about your man at the table, so that money's yours if you want to keep it." This man seemed reasonable. She had a chance. "He wasn't our man." For a moment he said nothing. Then he continued, "And you aren't our woman. You belong to Santa Muerte. She sent you to bring them out of hiding." He tossed his thumb back, pointed into the dark. Frankie figured her captors lay out there, dead now. Then he hefted her purse. "Here, take it." He tossed the purse at her, and it landed at her side. "Thank you." Frankie wasn't sure what was going on, so she reached for the purse, believing she might actually make it out alive. The man stood silent, then spoke again. "Santa Muerte gives, but she also demands a tribute. What can you offer her?" The conversation that started out friendly had taken a weird turn. Frankie wasn't sure what came next. She searched her mind for something they might consider a tribute. A prayer, perhaps? "Do you mean a prayer?" she asked. "No." The word came out short. "Something of yours. Something that will please Santa Muerte," he added. "And not the money in that purse. It's tainted. It came from them." He spit. I can't." Frankie remembered the dice around her neck. Tonight was the first time she'd ever worn the necklace. She reached into her shirt and pulled it out, holding it in front of the man. He fell to his knees, crossing himself. "Oh my God, have mercy on my soul, Santa Muerte." He kept his head bowed and held out a hand, raising it up in an invitation to the gift. She wasn't sure what to do next, so she did the only thing that seemed reasonable. She lifted the necklace over her head and extended it toward the man's hand. At that moment, the other one came back from the darkness, saying something in Spanish. "Carlo, what the hell is—" He stopped mid-sentence when he noticed Frankie and his brother lit up by the red taillights. Philip Alderez stopped when he saw the dice. Frankie watched him fold to the ground. Everything fell silent as she placed the necklace into Carlos's hand. He closed his fingers around it and stood, unable to look at Frankie. Even when he did, he avoided her gaze. "Thank you, Santa Muerte. Grace be to you and all that you offer." He turned and called out to the man still kneeling. "Felipe, we're done. Let's go." Turning back to Frankie one last time, he pulled up his shirt, revealing the golden belt that Frankie had glimpsed earlier on her captor. He unbuckled it, took it off, and handed it to her. "Remember me, Santa Muerte." With that, he turned, and when he stood with the other man, they both walked into the night and were gone. Frankie wanted to look closer at the belt, but drove away first to make sure she was alone. When it seemed safe enough, she stopped and snapped open one of the golden pockets. It was full of money. She pulled out the wad and counted it. There were 250 $100 bills. Her heart jumped. She checked her purse for the casino money, and it was all there. She turned her attention back to the money belt. There were 5 more pockets. Each seemed to contain the same amount of money. She didn't bother counting it. Frankie threw the van into gear and headed toward the main highway. When lights appeared in the distance, she drove close enough to walk the rest of the way, after wiping down the steering wheel, of course, and the back door. Then she took off, finished her journey, high-heeled shoes in hand, feet cooled by the desert pavement. When she got close enough, she read the sign, Moapa Paiute Travel Plaza Casino. She walked up to the front desk. The clerk barely flinched at her black eye. He didn't say a word about her shoes that she still carried in one hand. "Good evening, ma'am. Can I help you?" "Yes, I would like a room. Do you take cash?" She smiled at the clerk. "Yes, ma'am. It's $53 for one night," he added. "And you get a free continental breakfast and 3 drink tickets you can redeem in the casino." "Well, that sounds perfect." Frankie reached into her purse, a golden glint catching her eye. She took a $100 bill from the money she had won a few hours earlier and placed it on the counter. Frankie couldn't resist adding one more thing to the night, smiling at the clerk. "What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas." The clerk smiled back. "Yes, ma'am. Yes, it does." And that's the end. Well, I hope you liked that one. Of course, like I say every time, why not think about subscribing if you haven't already? It's down there. You know I don't know where it is. You're going to have to look for it somewhere here. Okay, we will see you hopefully next week. I'll come up with another story, and bye for now.